Welcome to Shut Up and Sit. I'm Yedda Stansel, a consciousness coach and consultant. I'm on a mission to bring mindfulness to the modern world. Each week, we will offer ancient healing practices, real-world examples, and the latest research in neurobiology and behavior change into fun conversation that invites you to wake up your highest self. Now, let's go shut up and sit. I'm here today with JJ White, the great JJ.
Oh,
I know. This is so exciting to be here with you.
if you keep saying that, I'll be here a long time.
And today we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics with you, JJ. And I know you got a lot to talk about this because of some things that have recently happened in your life. But today we're going to be talking about my favorite chapter in my book called Why Are You Killing Yourself?
I got your favorite. Wow.
You did. Yeah. And, so I've had a career in health and wellness, JJ, and, I was a certified personal trainer, health coach, nutritionist. I mean, I could choke on all my, my certifications around health and wellness. And it really was my first career, my first love. And I have had some people say, hey, you're doing this new show. You got this book you're launching. Like, why is health in a book that's titled Shut Up and Sit? And I've said this almost all of my life is that I believe my greatest wealth is my health. And when that gets taken from us, it wakes up a lot of things and it causes us to shut up and sit down in a lot of different ways. And I don't believe that we can be in this conversation about personal development, growth, evolution, without having a conversation about our health and well-being. And it's not just our body. I mean, our body keeps score, and it doesn't, you've heard me tell you this, and it does not lie. I mean, it lets you know when things are not working well. And so when we get into this health and wellness conversation, I think it has to be in the personal development space. And I don't really see that as a norm. And you've been in personal development quite a long time. So I thought maybe start with a little bit about you, who you are, how you got into this field, and tie back in the health. I know you had an issue lately about health. I would love to hear that, and I'm sure the listeners would love to learn what your experience was.
Sure.
With that.
Well, thanks for having me. The cornerstone of my career has been in the Dale Carnegie organization. I've been a franchise owner for 20 years in December, and I came in kind of through the back door. Like, I wasn't a professional personal development nut, where a lot of people, they go to Tony Robbins, they go to these other things, they read all the self-help books, and they just become like addicted to self-help. I looked at it as a business opportunity, and it started to suck me into what it could do for me as I was watching it do it for other people. And that is around mindset. That is around helping other people, being the best you can for others. I've always called it anti-self-help. I believe we should rename self-help selfish help, because so much of it is just about you.
Oh, absolutely.
And the crux of life is not about you. Wake up call, y'all.
Yeah.
This isn't all about you. And so I've spent the last 20 years helping others better themselves, really, for their relationships, for their spouses, for their kids, for their coworkers, for their managers, for their businesses, and that total package. And you're absolutely right. We don't have the time or the energy to include health, physical health in all of that. It's mental health in a way. It's
like we're just the head up that we focus on, and the
check
rest
up from the neck up. You've heard that one before,
absolutely.
right? Yeah, so
I walked you right into that one, friend.
It is. And so we, in that side of my career, it's always a checkup from the neck up. And quite frankly, for 20 years, I've needed a checkup from the neck down. And I grew up with two obese parents, and it's interesting because obese used to be a really bad word, and then you start to realize that a vast majority of everyone is considered technically obese.
Did you watch the Grammys last night, friend?
No, I don't do those kind of things anymore.
It's become the norm. TV. Yeah, well, good for you. Yeah. I did. I don't know. That's a whole other show why I did that. It's the norm now. We see.
I'm a firm. And just to clarify, I'm a firm believer in being you, do you, right? But if you glorify unhealthy habits, you will absolutely.
That's my bracelet says, do you, dude? Seriously, I'm wearing it.
But you don't want to glorify things that are killing you. I mean, seriously. You can do you, but there is a limit to your life on earth if you do you too much. And so I had the DNA going against me. Both parents were diabetic. Both parents had cancer. One died of cancer. My mom's still alive, thank God. But as the doctor told me years ago, I am genetically disposed to a lot of things. You need to take care of yourself. And so I got into marathoning about 7, maybe 8 years ago, and had a nutritionist at the time, and they did the whole blood panel, and they said, okay, so you're going to be working on this for the rest of your life. You can't ignore it. If you don't take care of yourself nutritionally, it's great you're running, but if you don't take care of yourself nutritionally, you're going to be in trouble. And I think there's this false belief that if you just go to the gym and you just run and you just do things, you can eat what you want, you can do what you want. Totally untrue.
I was going to say, I know you had that false belief, because I'm thinking, you said, how many years ago was this?
Like 6, 7, 8 years ago.
And I'm thinking of quite a few happy hours that you and I have had eating, drinking while you were training.
Absolutely.
And yeah. And I mean, I wasn't going to say anything to you then that, you needed to get it together, but I mean,
well, it's so you trade off some healthy habits for some bad habits.
Yeah.
And there was this is the biggest false mindset that I look back on and can't believe I got caught into it is, well, all that exercise makes you hungry. All that exercise forces hunger that you have to replenish yourself with. Total lies that I've learned by taking a more intentional pathway to nutrition and physical health and mental health all as one now. And rather than all work on mental health, I'll work on my nutrition, I'll work on my exercise. And so I got really fat, Yedda. I got fat. I wasn't
going to say anything. I'm glad you said it out loud.
Whatever.
I mean,
I got diabetes. So I stopped running because I had a foot injury. I'm flat-footed, and it was just hurting to run so much. I just wasn't taking good care of myself. And then when COVID hit, you would think, oh, well, you really can't go anywhere, so you might as well go outside and exercise. No, opposite, stayed in and ate and drank. I did the opposite. I just indulged in horrible nutritional habits and gained. I was already fat when COVID hit, and I got really fat. I got really just took terrible care of myself.
Did you want a shovel? Just to keep digging the hole?
Well, I'm trying to see. I'm doing that in movies where they they take you to a bad place and then pull you out of it. The hero shows up. And then in November, rewind a year, I had my first ever physical. I didn't have my first physical until I was 45 years old.
I believe that.
I never ever really thought about it, right? If you're not dealing with something chronic or you don't feel unhealthy, I don't think most people want to go and get a physical and open up Pandora's box in their life.
Yeah.
They're afraid of what they might find out, right? That's kind of why when we have trouble getting someone into a Dale Carnegie program, it's because they're afraid of what they might confront about themselves and then have to do something about it. And then, so I had my first physical, and I knew sugar was a problem. I knew the weight was a problem, and he was firm but nice about it. And then he said, I'll give you 3 months. You got to, and then COVID hit, and we didn't do a follow-up until I went back to my next physical. And he's like, you have diabetes, but I'm not going to call you a diabetic yet. He goes, I'm not making you official. This is what you got to do. I'm going to give you a health coach. You're going to lose 10 pounds, but I want to see 20. You're going to come back here in 3 months. And if your A1C isn't down, you're going to be on medication for the rest of your life.
Wow.
And I said, yes, sir. And met with the health coach the next week. She said, you need to stay under 100 grams of carbs. And I said, yes, ma'am. Made it through Thanksgiving unscathed.
That's incredible.
Unscathed. This was like a week before Thanksgiving. And the diet wasn't going to be a problem. I was like, I'm just, to your point, it was something that caused me to shut up and sit. I was like, okay, I got to get myself planted and reaffirm who I want to be. And I'm sitting in the car. My daughter had dance, and they don't let you come in. So I'm just sitting in the car waiting on her. And a friend of mine texted, and he said, have you ever heard of 75 Hard? And I just immediately swiped up, went to the web, Googled 75 Hard, and I'm reading this thing. It's a mental fitness challenge where you do 2 45-minute workouts a day. One of them has to be outside no matter what the weather conditions, and they can't be back to back. You have to drink a gallon of water. You have to go on a diet. You have to not drink alcohol. No cheating on anything. And if you cheat on anything, no matter where you're at in the 75 days, you have to start over. And I swiped back up and I texted him back. I said, I'm starting Saturday. And he's like, what?
That's incredible, because I know you and I talked about this program when you were first thinking about it. And I had the exact opposite. I thought, holy cow, that's a lot.
And see, this is I was 46 years old, and up to that point in my life, Yedda, I would say if that text would have come through just a month earlier, a year earlier, 5 years earlier, I would have said, oh, that's too intense.
Yeah.
Oh, that's too hard. Oh, I don't think I could do anything like that. But it caught me in this fixated mindset of complete and total physical transformation. And I literally felt like it was a gift from God. Like God said, the diet's not going to be enough for you.
Yeah.
You need more than that. You need something that's going to carry you on a lot further than just 3 months of watching your carbs.
Yeah.
And that Saturday I started, and I just went ballistic with it.
Like, I know. I saw your social media post. I'm like, JJ is like, he's gone hard on 75 hard.
I was thinking about going double hard. I was like, maybe I should do an hour workout instead of 45 minutes.
So I know a lot of folks that have tried 75 hard with lots of different experiences, mostly positive. Men really, this is just my experience, do really, really well with this program.
Yeah.
Women struggle with it for two reasons. One thing you have to do every day is take a picture of yourself.
Yep.
Okay. Well, that I was like, no, I'm not doing that.
That was hard for me too. I didn't like that.
Yeah. And then you have to drink a gallon of water.
Yeah.
Right. So I was like, the hardest part for me, and if I ever recommend a program, or if a friend comes to me and says, hey, I'm thinking about this program, I don't feel like I can speak to the program until I at least try it.
Yeah.
So I did it for a day.
Okay.
Literally stayed up till midnight to finish the damn water. And I was like, if this is what my life's going to be like for 75 days, I don't know for me where I am right now, if this is something. So I kind of thought maybe what's half of 75?
I don't know. I couldn't figure it out.
37.5?
Yeah, like halfway during the day.
So I'm going to create a program called 37.5, kind of sort of like not hard, not soft, like medium. 37.5 medium.
Yeah.
There's my new program. And so I really love that you did this program. And my point is, that's a really hard program, JJ.
So I appreciate everything you just said. When I first saw it, and this is just how mindset is so critical, I never thought it was going to be hard.
That's incredible.
And then when I started, I was so fanatical. Like I needed something so bad in my life as far as a structure and a goal. Not only was it never hard, it got easy. Like I was a week in and I was like, this is too easy. And now time out. I'm 50 pounds overweight at this point. I have not been inside a gym to work out in 15 years. I was not a healthy person starting this, but I was that UFC fighter that gets in the ring and just is so unstoppable. There's nothing that can take that person down. Like I was just so emboldened to do this. And I was just crushing it. Like I was actually setting goals to see how quickly I could get done with it in a day. Like I was just so over the top passionate about it. And so the rest of the 75 hard story is because a lot of people don't even know this getting into it. So I'm like you, I know a lot of people that are getting into it and they're just texting me like, how did you do it? This is so hard. And I just reply back as like, you're just in a different mindset than I am.
Exactly.
It has nothing to do with the exercises or the diet or your body.
Why are you doing it?
Absolutely. It is just a completely total different mindset. And it's all mental. And so 75 hard is 75 days. It's just the boot camp. There are 3 more phases that last a whole year.
I don't know that you want to let the whole world know that.
Well, so my point is, I know some people that didn't even know that going in.
Yeah.
And that have told me, if I would have known there was more to it, I may not have said yes to this thing. But, you don't have to do the rest of it. But here's the point. So it is designed for people to learn how to not quit things, period. And so I'm starting phase 1 on April the 1st. It's everything I just mentioned, except for you have to do a 5-minute cold shower and what they call 8 power tasks. So there's 8 things you have to do every single day. And you're setting yourself a goal every day. I've got to do these 8 things to make me successful today. And if you don't do all 8, you fail the day and you have to start over. So it brings a whole other level of intensity to it. And then the other phases keep adding more things until you're done with it on your 1-year anniversary.
But I do love that it works for a lot of people. It certainly worked for you. I mean, when you walked in here today, I was like, where's JJ? Like, I didn't know it was you. I mean, you've lost how many pounds?
So I've, on my scale, I've lost 22 pounds, but my body fat percentage has gone down like 3 or 4 percentage points in 3 months, which is a whole lot. If you think about what you have to do, muscle mass is going up on all the metrics and everything. And so that's what I'm very focused on now. So I go back to the doctor, and he said, and he jokingly opened the door and he said, "What, are you withering away on me now?" And so my A1C went from 6.8 in mid-November to 6.1 in mid-February. So I'm officially not a diabetic.
Congratulations.
I beat diabetes, and he said, "Okay, but guess what? Your new goal is 5.6. So this is what, and it was interesting because I'm very fixated on numbers. I always love the metrics and everything. So I was like, all right, doc, what's the goal? And he said, "I want you to lose your belly fat. I don't care what you do. I just need you to lose that because that's the most dangerous fat on your body." And I was like, really? I didn't realize
metabolic
that.
syndrome. There's a whole, there's a medical reason that he's telling you that. And it's a good thing it's a good goal to shoot for.
I'm 46. I have almost a 12-year-old, almost a 9-year-old. I want to watch them grow up and become adults. And while I can't control everything in my life, I can control what I put in my mouth and the time that I invest in being healthy. And it's so fascinating yet. So many people call it a diet. So many people are saying, "Oh, I can't believe you don't get to eat that." I'm like, don't have pity on me. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm happy. I get to eat steaks and chicken and bacon. I'm good. Yeah. I'm fine, thanks.
And most importantly, how do you feel?
So this was the analogy that I've used. I have been living in a cloud for decades.
Yeah, a trance,
a cloud, fog.
Well, what did you say the other day on the phone when we talked? It was a Twinkie trance.
It was a Twinkie trance.
Yeah.
I was in a Twinkie, an Oreo trance, and a Ruffles double crunch potato chip.
Yeah.
They have double crunch potato chips now. These things are amazing. I've had one, but each one has 2 grams of carbs, so I stopped eating it.
Yeah.
And it's changed the way that I feel about myself, and it's changed the way that it's changed my focus, my attention, my energy, my sleep. Like I know you read about these things, you hear about these things. I never really thought it was that big a deal until I did it.
Well, you didn't really have the contrast. You were living your life in a trance. And so for you, that's your baseline.
Yep.
And so what I love about your story and what I love about you, I mean, obviously personal development, Dale Carnegie, we've worked together a lot over the years. And I've just seen you in the ways that you grow and evolve yourself and help others. I wouldn't say that there was any outward like sign that JJ's suffering. I think you're right. The social norm is, we've all gotten a little bit larger and softer as a population.
It's okay.
And it wasn't anything like, JJ walked in the room and, was needed to be like hoisted out the bedroom window. But, you've always been what people would consider successful.
Yeah.
Helping people to grow and evolve, involved in the business community, family, kids, community activist and member, great friend. And all the while, there are these patterns and habits that aren't really in the room consciously. We're not talking about them. And then you get this wake up call.
Yeah.
And so in the book, I actually talk, it's further in another chapter, but there's only 4 ways to change a belief system. And when we talk about personal development, we're talking about changing people's behavior.
Yeah. And
so here you're going through life and you got one of the 4. And one of them is a traumatic life event. The doctor says, JJ, you're in a diabetes conversation and you're going to have to do these things or this is coming.
Yep.
And so where the desire is greater on one side, right? So the desire for you was, I don't want to get diabetes.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, all these things on the other side of the equation that probably might have been hard for some people, it shifts the conversation for us. And it has a mental shift. And so what happened for you was you got that wake up call. And for some people, the traumatic life event, they don't get the second chance.
Nope.
And it could be the loss of a family member. I talk about that in my book. I miss my dad every day of my life. And, he's been dead longer than than he was alive for me in my life. And so, but if I didn't lose him, I would have never gone into the health and wellness industry. It's a catalyst for sure. So you got this catalyst and you rose up and you said, I'm going to do something with this. You got your wake up call. You got out of the trance. And did you see the text I sent you, by the way, earlier today? It was a great, powerful question.
Yep.
And the question said, what inner need, basically, does your worst habit fulfill? And so in health and wellness, I remember this in my first career, people would never talk about mindset in health and wellness. They would come in, I would, personal train. It would be great. You'd have a great workout. And we never had a conversation about your patterns, your habits. And in the personal development space, as I got kind of out of wellness and started going more into entrepreneurship and, got into the business world, I started really jumping into the personal development. I think I took your Dale Carnegie course.
You did right there in the moment.
I don't think I passed it, you guys. I don't know what. It was something about I had to pretend to be an ape or a monkey or something. And and I was like, I'm out. This is stupid.
She stayed. She did not go out. She stayed.
It was a great program. It was awesome. But, in that movement of me waking up and going, well, okay, what's leadership development all about? I just remember sitting there thinking, this is so strange. In health and well-being, which is what gets us up out of bed and helps us work and carry our whole life out into the world, we're not talking about patterns and mindset. But then over here in leadership development, we're talking about mindset, but we're not talking about health and well-being and our presence as a leader. So really shut up and sit for me was kind of marrying those two together with a little bit of that kind of modern, mindfulness is a big buzzword right now, but how do we interrupt patterns of behavior? There has to be something. You got your interruption. It was a traumatic life event, but you had to make the decision when you were in that shut up and sit moment to go within and figure out your why and how to do it and why you were doing it for yourself. Nobody could do that work for you.
I think that is the distinguishing factor, especially coming back to the 75 hard. All the people that I know that have done it or are doing it and are having so much trouble with it, because you have to wake up every day, right? They say Rome wasn't built in a day, but every brick was laid in a day. And it's hard to wake up and go doing all these things if you don't know why you're really doing it.
Yeah, you're not autopilot.
Because they're doing it because they said they were going to do it. But then they're like, well, I don't want to do it anymore. And there's no other guiding light there. There is no true north to that change.
You're in bondage to your habits.
The same mind, right? The same mind that is holding you hostage is the one that is talking you out of everything that you need to do to change. And it doesn't. So you were joking with your 37 and a half. I know you were, but
not really.
I've done the 25-day challenges, the 30-day challenges, the 60-day challenges. And Andy Frisella, the guy that created it, and he does a podcast, and he'll tell you, and the reason it was 75 is because you've got to get over this habit hump.
Yeah.
You've got to do something for so long, so consistently to go whole. And I will tell you, I didn't really see, because you got to take these pictures that you mentioned. I didn't really see enough in 60 days to say, well, I need to keep doing this. If I relied on that 30 to 60 day progress to give me the encouragement to keep going, I would have quit. It wasn't until actually I got done with 75 hard that I had built all this momentum that then started to show up in day 85 and then day 90. I'm like, oh crap, here it is.
Yeah.
How many of you right now listening would literally do 5 things a day, every day, no compromise for 90 days in a row, just long enough to actually start to see a result? Most people would quit in a week.
I could give you the percentages. And actually I talk about it in my book and in the coaching that I offer. 21 days to change a habit is total crap. It's a lie. Whoever keeps, telling that's not, actually, I take that back. It's applicable if the habit doesn't rule your life and it's really not something that's causing you harm or you struggle with.
Right.
If you told me to leave my neighborhood every day for the next 21 days and hang a left at the light instead of a right and take a new way to work, I'd be like, all right, cool,
sure,
JJ, I can do that. Yeah. No big deal. But we're talking about deep ingrained
struggle, something that causes struggle,
right? Really unconscious pattern behaviors that at some point in our life we learned to fill a void or a hole. Or I think I mentioned this to you when you were on your journey. It's a great book by Deepak Chopra. And he says, what are you really hungry for? And back to my question on the quote that I sent you, what inner need does your worst habit fulfill? And so what we now know as science is the deeper the behavior, the harder it is. Some research is coming out saying it's over 220 days.
Not surprised.
To get you to really lay new neural pathways in your brain, because you're not only making healthy choices that your body is going, oh, this feels good, and having a physical response, you're actually rewiring your brain. I mean, literally. And so that pause, that shutting up and sitting down every day and saying, I'm going to do these 5 things, 8 things, whatever they are, in that moment of making that conscious choice, you are literally, I call it rewinding, rewriting, and responding with a new pattern, which basically, and I use this analogy a lot. It's like your cell phone, right? You download an app. The minute the app goes on your phone, it's out of sight, out of mind. You don't even talk about it. You don't think about it. You just know every time I pull my phone up, it's there and it's working. Well, you've got to delete the app and you got to put a new one in when you get some type of health notice or news like you did. And that's hard. You'd
said something about you'd be better off by just restating it rather than me trying to chop it up. But it's about what is that deep thing that's driving you to do something
what different? Inner need
does
so your worst habit fulfill?
So,
or meet, I guess we should say.
So the hardest things that I had to get rid of, because I have 2 young kids, and so we have junk food in the house. It's the chips, it's the cookies, it's eating extra food all the time that really serve no purpose other than to cure something in my head, the satisfaction, the need to have that yummy food. And that need hasn't gone away, but what I've done is replace it with something else. Like there's those other, call them good habits, that are just replacing the bad habits, but it's not making me less of a habitual person. Like I didn't become less needy of something. I just changed that to something else that is just as, if not more satisfying to me.
Well, and what's great about this too, the journey that you're on and this personal, marrying the personal development, the mindset, and the words I use in my work is when it's integrative development. We're now learning personal development is integrative in nature. It's behavior, it's environment, it's aspiration, it's mindset. It's the whole picture. And I really do think, and this is a whole nother podcast, COVID has really ushered in the ability for us to break a lot of systems and beliefs and patterns and habits down and rebuild them, societally, culturally, with our families, with our own health and well-being. But, back to this conversation about being in this habit conversation. So it's awesome that you've broken down and you've replaced and are continuing to replace and lay new neural pathways, is what I call in your brain, to create new habits. However, dropping a little bit deeper down, and this is where the silence, the stillness, the shutting up and sitting down says, what inner need, is it still there? Where's it coming from? And I know we talked about this with your personal story. I shared with you an example, a client I had years ago, and I'll never forget this, you guys. He came to me and he said, I'm really struggling. I want to lose weight. I want to exercise. And we all know when we're consciously awake what we want to do. But when we fall asleep, stress pulls this prefrontal cortex offline. And the minute this goes offline due to stress, we go into a trance. Autopilot kicks in and says, things are way too difficult to manage right now, JJ. So we got a lot of background scripts and programs. We're just going to pull them all out of the closet. We're going to plug them in and run them because you're spending a lot of energy and effort. And the brain loves patterns. It loves habits. I mean, it's really efficient to run on habits. I mean, your brain uses a lot of energy in your day, every day. So here's the thing though, if you are not really going deep enough to figure out what's underneath, and back to the story with my client, he knew what to do. We all know what to do. I say this in my chapter. Nobody's guessing, how often should I exercise? Yeah. I mean, we are not lacking information on any level. We all know we're supposed to exercise, we're supposed to eat right, blah, blah, blah. We can go down the list. So I remember this client saying to me, he goes, I already know all that. And I thought, what am I going to do this? How am I going to help? How am I going to help this guy? And so I started asking him questions. And this was, 20 years ago when I first started out in the industry. And I said, hey, so I'm just curious. Let's just kind of, we used to do these food diaries. And I'm like, let's just walk through a day in the life. Let's just we'll call him Bob. Okay. We'll call him Bob. We won't call him JJ, but we'll just call him Bob. Thanks. And so Bob said, he said, yeah. I said, so when was the first time? And this is a great question for all of us, for you, for me, for our listeners. Any inner need that we have, when was the first time you felt that need? And what was the first thing you did to make yourself feel better when you needed that? And I mean, we're talking a little bit about an archaeological dig. And I said, so when you eat, and his big thing was junk food. And he goes, oh, I eat junk food. And I'm like, so what's the need that you're trying to meet? And you have to shut up and sit down and get quiet, because you got to go within and you got to listen to the silence and stillness for just a minute. And he looked at me after a moment of reflection and he said, I remember when I was a kid in elementary school, I would get bullied a lot. And what I needed and wanted most in the world was to feel safe. And he said, when I would get home, my mom would meet me at the front door from school. And guess what she had in her hands to say, honey, I love you.
A Twinkie.
Well, for you, she probably did.
It's the kind of mom I like.
Right. And so whether your mom gave you a Twinkie, but his gave him a cake. Yeah, cakes, pies, sweets.
Yeah.
And so he said, I remember, and I said, when was the first time you just started eating junk food? And that's what memory came to him. And he said, so I said, maybe the work isn't us forcing you to hold that beach ball underwater and stop eating cakes and take a different route around the vending machine at work. Maybe the work here is getting back in touch with the part of yourself that got wounded when those kids would pick on you and would bully you. Yeah. And what we did was a little bit of cognitive behavioral therapy is what we called it back then, was really basically what shut up and sit, what mindfulness is now. Got him to get quiet and go within and start to have an inner dialogue and narrative with that little wounded small boy and say, you don't need a cake anymore to feel better. We're actually going to work together, you and I, and integrate that wounded part of ourselves back into the wise part of ourselves. And then what happens is the cravings go away altogether. So where people are at, and I love 75 Hard, I love all the programs that are out there. They all are good because, hey, if they meet people where they are and it offers a solution for pattern interrupt, it's a win. And you got a great win. And now the next level of the program you're starting in April is going to keep you, in habits and take you even deeper. Yeah. But I think, as you know, because you're so deep into mindset and you know this stuff, shutting up and sitting down and going, God, I'd really love to have a Twinkie right now. Just the habit of getting quiet for just those few seconds in that experience gives you the ability to choose not to eat the Twinkie and to keep yourself from going on autopilot and going back over and grabbing them and saying, fuck it, I'm just gonna eat the Twinkie.
And there's two big lessons that, based on what you just said, that I've learned in this structure is there are some rules on the phases, but I could have picked up phase 1 right after the boot camp. And I tell you what, I wanted to just keep going. But there was something that hit me probably about a month before I was over. I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. Not yet. I have to see what I'm capable of with no outside structure, right? With 75 Hard, you're saying I'm going to do it. And if I fail, I've got to start over. Well, if there's no 75 Hard, there is no failing and there is no starting over. It's living these new habits every day. And I kept tracking my food. I still track my water. And I've worked out every day except for one day, which taking a rest day is perfectly fine. I drink a gallon of water, probably like 80 to 85% of the way there. So I'm still drinking a ton of water, but I'm not making myself drink a gallon anymore. Yeah. And I've been so happy with the fact that I can do this for me on my own. And the other thing that is, I think, really critical to any process that I found, there were so many things to do in this process. Like you have to do one workout in the morning. Essentially, if you're going to do 2 workouts, you got to do one in the morning and one in the afternoon, evening. Then they also make you read 10 pages of a book, a nonfiction book, which I was already doing. Yeah. But I started to realize I was doing so many things in a day now. What did I do with my time before? They always say before kids, what did we do before kids? Well, it's like, what was I doing before I did an hour and a half of working out and read way more than 10 pages? I ended up reading 20, 30 pages. Wow, have I been unproductive? It's you eat, you sit around because you're freaking bored. Yeah. You've got things to do. Oh, yeah. But you're just so bored.
When people tell me they don't have the time, I'm like, look, we've all got 24 hours in a day. You know what? It's the desire isn't
Absolutely.
there. And this program that you're on, and I love Mel Robbins. It reminds me of Mel Robbins' work, and she's in my book as well, is I love her TED Talk on the 5-second rule. And the 5-second rule is that your brain literally pulls the emergency brake if you don't act within 5 seconds. It is a neurological. So that moment where you wake up and you're like, I'm going to get out of bed.
Every morning.
I'm going to do this. And you know what? Don't even finish the thought, because when you get past 5 seconds, the brain goes, no, we're not going to do that. How about we roll over and grab our phone and see who's on Facebook and what comments they made last night? And so I think this is something that's really, really important for us to talk about as a society is you're never going to think your way or feel your way into making changes like this. No. The law of action is the only
Totally.
one that matters. Now, the law of action is great. You've taken a lot of action. You feel great. You look great. You're going to continue this habit. It's going to be an ongoing process. You're going to need to work at it. We all do. And I mentioned this to you the other day when we talked. I said, people, they've come up to me my whole life and they're like, you must have incredible genes. You're so thin and, and yeah, do I have some good genetics? Yeah. Do we all have some good genetics? Yeah. Do we have some bad? Sure. But here's the deal. I didn't get programmed around food.
Yeah.
I don't struggle. And we talked about this and for you guys listening, it's in my book, but poverty does not give you the ability, at least in the 70s. Now poverty is different. We're a poverty stricken nation, but we're still overfed. I'm talking about real poverty. Like, we didn't have money. My mom was on food stamps, welfare. And, people have already heard our first episode. Second episode, my mom was here, JJ, and she told her story. Literally, we didn't have food as a luxury. And so when people say to me, it's just so easy for you. Well, I just didn't get patterned with that kind of stuff. And so food was never, my mom would go to the grocery store, buy the food. Literally, I'm the oldest of four. She would look at us four kids because she was a single mom. And she would say, I'm not going to the grocery store until exactly 1 week from today. If you eat it all, whatever you do or don't do, I don't have the money. So food was never a luxury for us. And we would get down to literally, and I don't mean to make this sound like it's the Great Depression, we would get down to just random bizarre remnants in the house. And my sisters and I would have to get creative. I'll tell you what, I can make oodles and noodles in 50 different ways that will
coasters
blow
off the table
your
and
socks
tear
off.
pages off the book and chew on them like potato chips.
Yeah. So for me though, it wasn't a pattern. So food wasn't something. Now we can get into a conversation about a lot of other patterns that I got around human behavior, around alcohol, around drugs, around, relationships. So
it's all the same though. I mean, at the end of the day,
it's all the same.
Yeah.
And these are what we call,
what do you want to hook to?
Yeah. And they're limiting beliefs where somewhere, somehow we get taught something, they limit us in a way. And so am I glad that I don't have that issue? Absolutely. But I can promise you, if we put all of our patterns or our beliefs or issues in the floor, you probably wouldn't take mine. I wouldn't take yours. Most people don't want the other stuff from me. They're like, you know what? I'll keep my neuroses. I'll keep my stuff. Yeah. So, but I do know what it takes to change behavior. I mean, it's been my whole career and it's not easy. And what makes it not easy is we don't really know how to do it. Our society doesn't teach us. There's no social structural norms in place that say, hey, let's help you do this.
And those norms are shifting to saying that a lot of that stuff is okay now.
Yeah.
That it's normal to just be fat.
Yeah.
That's fine. Live in your own skin. It's like, well, to an extent, yeah, you don't want to berate people because of their size, but you've got to do something to encourage them to live healthier.
Well, and that's the whole thing is living healthier, we feel better. And again, I started the show with this today, but the body always keeps score and never lies. I've believed that my entire career. I've, put my heart and soul into figuring out why people do what they do. Yeah. How do you get people to change behaviors? How do you overcome those addictions? It's a complex conversation. And here's the great news though. We can all do it. We are all doing it. There's a ton of information out in the world that we can learn that helps us and meets us where we are. And I'm a huge fan of meeting people where they are in this work, because the truth is, if we don't meet people where they are, if you're not ready to move into the next stage, and there's actually, did you know there's actually a theory called the trans-theoretical model of change, JJ?
I don't recall that. No.
You didn't get taught that in school.
Yeah.
But here's the deal. So it's actually a real thing. And those of us that study behavior change, we get taught it. And people are in different stages of change. Did you know that people can be in pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, and maintenance? 5 different stages of change. And we throw a program out there, and it's why 75 hard works for some people and it doesn't for other. Nothing wrong with the program.
Yeah.
The person who tried to do it wasn't at the stage of change that the program was designed to serve.
Yep.
And I think this is a really important piece. And so for me, carrying that into the work that I do, and even into thinking about how to market and grow, shut up and sit and serve people, is you have to meet people where they are.
Yeah.
You've got to be real. It's got to be something that people feel like they get permission. It's not punishment. It's permission to say, hey, does this meet me where I am? Does this help me to grow and evolve? And I just think we got to start the conversation with health and well-being. The chapter 1, why are you killing yourself? I'm so glad to see that you literally put the knife and fork down. You stopped.
It was a realization I was killing myself.
I know.
It's a very, very, very slow process. But when you start to realize this is going to take years off my life if I don't do something about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so before we go, I know we're running out of time. We got the amazing Griffin behind the camera. You guys don't get a chance to see him. I said this on my first episode. You know how Howard Stern has Robin? Well, Yedda has Griffin.
Okay.
That's how this rolls. So Griffin, Griffin's given us the thumbs up that we're getting ready to run out of time shortly. But before we go, JJ, I'm curious, just knowing how your health and well-being, stopping literally killing yourself on a physical level, I wonder if you could just share with the listeners, what do you think that's going to do and is doing for your own personal growth and development moving forward?
The physical transformation, when I say physical, I don't mean just losing weight in seeing something different. I mean the acts that I'm putting myself through every single day of going to the gym or going in my basement or of drinking that water or taking the time to do these things is absolutely opening up other layers in my life. Like I've been a small business owner for 20 years. It's helping me see things I didn't see before. Like I can't even describe what it's doing to my brain. Like it's this is going to sound a little egotistical and weird, but it's actually making me smarter than I've ever felt before.
It
like
is.
Cognitively,
physiologically, neurobiology.
I want to go back and take my SATs just to see if I can break 1,000. You know, that kind of
I'll
like
pass on that
when I
one.
was 18, I did so horrible. I think I would do better now. Like you mentioned this, it's rewiring everything in me. It's the way that I'm processing other people. It's the way that it's the way I look at the world has changed.
Yeah.
And so you've got to do more than just go on a diet. You've got to do more than just decide to get a little bit more physical. You literally have to make a conscious decision to do all these things. You don't have to make massive changes in every part of your life because especially if you're not ready for it, they're not going to live.
Oh, and you'll self-sabotage. The ego will jump in and say, no, this is too much, too fast.
Yeah.
I can't let go of these patterns or these habits because the ego, whole nother episode, the ego actually knows that and believes that these are what keep us safe. The Twinkies keep us safe, JJ.
Yeah, I've always felt that everything in my life has been kind of wired against this kind of change, right? My mind is, my body is. I've been through that phase, guys. Maybe women go through this, but I know as guys, we talk about it all the time. It's like, I started going back to the gym and running for like 2 months straight and I didn't lose but like 2 pounds. So they quit, right? It's like, as a society, we have just lost our ability to persevere. It's unbelievable the amount of perseverance I have had just to get to this point and realizing I've got a long way to go. And it's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Yeah.
And it's every part of my life that needs to change. I shouldn't say every part, but it's all those habits that you're self-sabotaging with yourself with. Where you spend your time and your mind on your phone. That's another thing. By the way, I got rid of Facebook. I've practically been off social media.
Wow.
So there's other things that I have transformed in my life to make this kind of change.
That's incredible.
Get off social media, folks. That'll probably be half your problem.
I feel like that's another episode too. We got so much to talk about.
Unless you're going to watch her show, then you want to be on as much social media as you can.
We've had so much fun over the years, not only as friends and in professional areas and arenas here in leadership development in Richmond, but also being on radio shows. I've been on your radio show several times, which is a really cool honor. And now you're on my show, which is awesome. Who knew? And one of the things I think about in this work of shut up and sit, and you've seen this whole thing be evolved. When we met, I wasn't even pulling all this together. And actually you've seen me at my absolute lowest. I mean, honestly, how would you define and I told this on the first episode when I did the big old belly flop off the high dive and my ego landed at perfect 10, but there was no water in the pool is what I said. Really, you remember those days. They were really bad.
Total chaos.
Yeah.
In your head.
Yeah.
It was just total chaos in your head. It was like a war was going on.
Yeah. But here's what's so interesting is, so I'm just thinking about this as you're talking, the inverse, the package, the outside, the health, the fitness, the nutrition, the exercise, I had that shit nailed.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's easy. But what was going on in my mind?
It was the most controllable parts of your life.
Exactly. And so you're right. The inner chaos, the war that was happening in my mind. I love that. It was a war. It was a war. It was a straight up battle.
Yep.
Yeah. And so for me, learning to shut up and sit down, which goes way beyond mindfulness. I'm not talking about meditation or switching into some, Eastern religious belief. I'm going way below any religious dogma here, you guys. Learning to shut up and sit down and figure out who I was, what was driving the show, what patterns were at play. If I didn't cultivate silence and stillness, I would have never, A, been able to figure out what that was, B, find that pause to insert something new and go, how about the next time you're hungry for something, Yedda, you don't drink a bottle of wine and start texting on your phone and doing the backflip out the window with the hand grenade and machine gun while you're at it.
Yep.
And so you've seen the transformation of shut up and sit Yedda to now shut up and sit Yedda. And I got to be really careful that I don't make too many proclamations here, because
be careful how much you talk to her.
Yes.
You might get her attention.
You know what? My ego is, she sits at home a lot now with a soft, fuzzy blanket. She watches PBS Masterpiece Theater. She's good. She's happy now. I think that's a big part of this, is the realization that you're not putting these things away permanently. No. That this is your nature. This is a part of who you are. You know what you're capable of and your tendencies, and you just have to rise above it and control it. I mean, we're of age now where we're no longer growing out of these things. It's a part of who we are. So we just are making more conscious decisions about who we want to be in any given moment. Hey, I've been in Dale Carnegie for 20 years. I have multiple moments every day where I want to violate all the principles and say what I mean or say what I think, and just, not be a very pleasant person to be around, because it's in my nature. It's that directness I have, and I just have to be aware of who that guy is. Hanging out with you fun though, because you can't lose him, and I don't like to lose her completely, because you guys, we have a lot of fun hanging out together. And this is what I'll say is, as we bring things to a close here, is this is real. This is life. It's messy.
We're probably preaching to the choir right now.
And so here's the thing: if you're sitting there and you're listening to us and you're thinking, "Wow, I didn't know." Maybe you thought you were the only one. We're not. None of us are alone. 87% of the population's doing this. They're waking up. They're going back to sleep. They're trance. They're I call it sleep and waking up. And here's the deal: we can all wake up and we can stay awake. That's really what mindfulness, what shutting up and finding the silence is it keeps us awake.
Yeah.
And when we are awake, we can remember the truth of who we really are. And who we really are is not the Twinkies. It's not the backflips out the window. It's not the alcohol. It's not all the things I talk about in chapter 1 that we're using to numb our suffering. We're so much more than our suffering. And so if we can sit with it long enough to just be with it, we might find we don't have to do all of these really shitty health habits to get rid of how we feel. We might actually feel better if we get new health habits, which then what I love is, you just said it a minute ago, your brain feels better, which makes the mindset and all the other stuff easier to do. When your body feels good, the mind also feels good, because the mind isn't in the brain. It's in every cell of the body. And it's all connected.
Yeah.
So it's so much fun. I mean, seriously, we could be here till midnight. People are going to be calling and they're going to be like, "Where are JJ and Yedda?" Well, they're just hanging out down at the mindfulness bar. They're just still talking, and we could do that, but I don't
know. This still might get a little uncomfortable after a while.
So anyway, guys, thanks for listening. And JJ, thank you a million times over. I'm so excited. We're going to do this many more times in the show. You're one of our first guests. I said on the other episode, if you want to be successful at a podcast, your first guest should be your mom. That's what I read.
Okay.
And then I read, if you want to be even more successful at a podcast, call all the people that you know that'll say really great things about you and have them come on next. So I'm kind of running through that list of people. There you go.
Now keep running it.
And then I'm going to get some famous people in here. But I feel like,
I'm not famous. I see how it is. No, I'm just kidding. I know what you meant.
So thank you for coming in to the Mindfulness Bar today, for shutting up, sitting down. And I'm so excited about your health journey and where that's going to take you. I want you to be around for a long time.
Me too.
I think the world of you, and I think only great things are going to go from here.
Thank you.
So thank you. And guys, make sure before you go, if you want to learn more about what we talked about today that's in the Shut Up and Sit book, the work, the course, all these cool resources, you can go to shutupandsit.com. We have a really cool survey there that helps to meet you where you are to figure out what's the best next step for you right here, right now, to begin this journey to find silence and stillness. Until next time, this has been Yedda. Take care.
May you know goodness. May you know peace. May you know contentment. May you be